Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a time to start the inaugural session of the 3-day international webinar on water, health, and parasites on the World Water Day, 22nd March 2021. With us will be joining the Professor Talat Ahmed, who is the President of the International Webinar and Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Srinagar. Professor Sukhbir Kaur, Chief Guest of the International Webinar and President ISP. Professor Shakil Ahmed Ramshu, Dean Research, University of Kashmir, Srinagar. Professor Shamim Ahmed Shah, Dean School of Earth and Environmental Sciences, University of Kashmir, Srinagar. Dr. J.K. Saxena, Secretary ISP. Professor Fayyaz Ahmed Bhatt, Director Webinar and Head Department of Environmental Science, University of Kashmir, Srinagar. Dr. Arshid Jahangir and Dr. Muhammad Muslim are organizing secretaries of the webinar. Assalamu alaikum and a good morning to all of you. Let me start by setting the tone and context for the need and relevance of organizing this international webinar, Health and Parasites, on the eve of observance of World Environment Day 2021. The webinar 22nd March 21, that's World Water Day, being an online event, has gathered more than 500 participants from the different countries of the world, like USA, UK, Canada, China, Japan, Italy, Pakistan, including India, to raise the awareness and to listen to the experts on various issues related to the water, be it the global water crisis and water security, Sustainable Development Goal number 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030, climate change, water pollution, aquatic ecosystem health, protecting agriculture protection, reuse of wastewater through the circular economy, management of water resources and aquatic ecosystems, policy and governance issues, development of smart and intelligent technologies, parasite and public health, etc. The theme of the World Water Day 2021 is valuing water. The value of a water is about much more than its price. Water has enormous and complex value for our households, food, culture, health, education, economics, and ecosystems. SDG 6 is to ensure water and sanitation for all, and without a comprehensive understanding of water's true multidimensional value, we will be failing and unable to safeguard this critical resource for the benefit of everyone on this planet. Water distinguishes our planet compared to all others we know about. While the global supply of available fresh water is more than adequate to meet all current and foreseeable water demands, its spatial and temporal distributions are not, thereby creating a world of haves and have-nots and putting a lot of constraints on human health, productivity, economic development, as well as on the maintenance of a clean environment and healthy ecosystems. Throughout the world, demographic, economic, and technological trends have accelerated our ability to knowingly and unknowingly modify the environment we live in and that sustains us. We humans have become a principal driver of environmental change, and we are altering the quantity and the quality of our water resources on which we depend to survive, both physically and economically. We depend on water not only for life, but indeed for our economic well-being as well, because water plays an important role in the creation of everything we produce. Therefore, there are no substitutes, and while it is renewable, there is only a finite amount of it. In the past, we have made decisions regarding the management of our water resources that somehow have not always helped us to become more secure or sustainable. We have disrupted river connectivity, making the rivers flowless, and overdrafted the groundwater aquifers, polluted many, if not most, of our water bodies, be it lakes, wetlands, streams, rivers, reservoirs, springs, including the estuaries, coastal zones, and even oceans. We have done this mainly to satisfy short-term economic goals, often goals that may not have included the long-term environmental or even economic sustainability of a region or basin, and indeed our own health. Our planet no longer functions in the way it once did, as the challenges like resource constraints, financial instability, water conflict, inequalities within and between countries, environmental degradation, all suggest that challenges as the business as usual cannot continue. And these challenges to effectively planetary stewardship in general and water in particular must be addressed on top priority. Hence, it could be highly beneficial and relevant to all of us to take a closer look in this international webinar at some of the most likely challenges and scenarios the water sector is facing in order to determine how to embrace the opportunities. There is no escape from the fact that the need and the demand for finite and vulnerable water will continue to expand, and so will a competition for it. All of us involved in the research, therefore, must find ways to remove these constraints. We face multiple challenges in doing that, especially given a changing and uncertain future climate and a rapidly growing population that is driving increased social and economic development, globalization, and urbanization. How best to meet these challenges requires a thoughtful discussion and a research in all aspects and dimensions of the water. Piecemeal reactions and responses to undesirable disruptions in life support systems are not enough in today's world, where humans can control the environment of our planet. In this Anthropocene epoch, we are the only species with the capacity to reflect on our behavior and change it as needed to secure our health and economic and social well-being. Providing healthy and meaningful livelihoods for all the humanity is our major challenge of 21st century. It is going to require all of us as a society to identify through research, develop through the science and engineering, and implement through governance, the technological, economic, political, and social measures that will set a course toward the achievement of a desirable and more sustainable and secure future. Research will always be needed to identify and evaluate the impacts of alternative paths towards this future and the trade-offs that will be inevitable given our multiple and not always compatible dreams or goals. But the clearly translating research results in the ways that makes them policy relevant is urgently needed. We know the changes in our behavior and our diets can also have a substantial impact on our water consumption. We have options, we need to make choices. Continued research is needed to help us to identify these continually evolving options and choices and to inform us on their effectiveness. We do not need more research to tell us this, but we can benefit from the more research into how this can be accomplished effectively and efficiently to ensure that there will be sufficient water to feed a growing and wealthier population, to sustain vital life support systems, and to produce and distribute enough other goods and services. It will be essential to achieve more crop per drop, more jobs per drop, better environment per drop, improved nutrition per drop, among many such goals. But unfortunately, current trends imply increase, that we need to work together to reverse this increase. Meeting unmet and growing human needs and escalating wants is a mounting challenge, and identifying and evaluating ways of addressing these challenges is surely a topic for a major collaborative and multidisciplinary research demand. To prevent a severe water management crisis, we need to be creative. And if we continue to follow a business usual pathway, it could lead to situation in which our current predictive models may not work at all. We need to identify, establish, and then set in motion system of governance and regulation that are capable of forcing us on path that will lead us towards long-term sustainable development. In an era of growing water scarcity, we need to identify how to use our technical capacity and human ingenuity to reduce these production and supply chain inefficiencies. The fundamental issue facing everyone is how to reconcile our desires for all of us on this globe to have a good life, and facing to have a good life with the constraints imposed by the availability of a renewable but limited water resource. It can be done. Let our optimism and resolve be a torch to light the way forward. In this context, Department of Environmental Science, University of Kashmir, in collaboration with the Indian Society of Histology, is organizing a 3-day international webinar on from 22 to 24 on the eve of World Water Day on the theme Water, Health and Parasites. Wherein the main idea is to encourage the people to listen and understand about the various critical issues of the water. The objective of this webinar is to highlight the issues and challenges related to water, health, and parasites, and hopefully it will benefit both students, scholars, scientists, and the policymakers in a big way as we move to have fruitful deliberations for next 3 days on various facets of the theme, that's water, health and hygiene, and parasites. The webinar will comprise of invited talks on various topical and pressing issues of the water, health, sanitation, and parasites by towering personalities across the world, which will equip the students, resource scholars, and even faculty to spread the message and also to develop linkages and to initiate the collaborations to directly tackle the issues related with the themes. This webinar shall include the presentations focused on the issues of local, regional, national, and global importance. The experts outside the country who have agreed to deliver a talk on various issues of the water and health belong to USA, Canada, Italy, Japan, China, Australia, Bangladesh. In addition to this, 5 experts from the country will also talk on the theme parasites. This webinar hopefully will provide an opportunity to all of us to reflect upon what is coming in the form of changes and challenges, and to decide and prioritize where our focus and efforts should be directed and targeted ahead to address the challenges. Therefore, it is the right time and the platform to question today's thinking by considering which obstacles are coming and how the water sector can turn such changes and challenges into opportunities that benefit economy and perhaps most importantly, the environment in its totality. After setting the tone and with these introductory remarks, let's begin this inaugural session with the word of God. And for this, I would like to request and invite one of the resource scholar, PhD resource scholar from the Department of Environmental Science, Mr. Ishfaq Qayyum Shah, to recite few words from the Holy Quran. Mr. Ishfaq Qayyum Shah, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, Ishfaq, go ahead.
Yes, Ishfaq, please go ahead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون وجعلنا في الأرض رواسي أن تميد بهم وجعلنا فيها فجاجا سبلا لعلهم يهتدون وجعلنا السماء سقفا محفوظا وهم عن آياتها معرضون وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر كل في فلك يسبحون وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد أفإن مت فهم الخالدون كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير فتنة وإلينا ترجعون. And now the translation. Do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass? Then we split them apart, and we created from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? And we have placed firm mountains upon the earth, so it does not shake with them, and made in it broad pathways, so they may find their way. And we have made the sky a well-protected canopy, still they turn away from its sign. And he is the one who created the day and the night, the sun and the moon, each traveling in an orbit. We have not granted immortality to any human before you, O Prophet. So, if you die, will they live forever? Every soul will taste death, and we test you, O humanity, with good and evil as a trial. Then to us you will all be returned. Sadaqallahul Azim.
Thank you, Ishfaq, for enlightening us with the word of God. Now, I would like to invite and request our this Head Department of Environment, Professor Fayyaz Ahmed, for welcome matters. Professor Fayyaz Ahmed, please.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अंदाज़े बयां गर्ज बहुत शूक नहीं है, अंदाज़े बयां गर्ज बहुत शूक नहीं है, शायद कि उतर जाए तेरे दिल में मेरी बात। Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all the dignitaries, the panelists and scholars, scientists, ladies and gentlemen. All praise to Almighty Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. The University of Kashmir is the pioneering higher education institute of Jammu and Kashmir and has been fulfilling the commitments in best possible ways. The university is NAAC accredited grade A plus university and has the distinction of figuring among the top 50 universities. To be more precise, 48th on NIR ranking. And we are proud of our institution and as an entity try to contribute our part in academics, research and extension. The Department of Environmental Science has been established way back in 2000 with the vision to produce quality environmental professionals who can rise to the occasion for addressing various environmental challenges. The thrust areas of the department include environmental pollution, aquatic ecology, terrestrial ecology, remote sensing and GIS, and environmental impact assessment. The department so far has produced 346 postgraduate students, and currently we have 78 students enrolled. 42 MPhils have been awarded from this department, and then 36 PhDs have also been awarded. Currently, 47 PhD scholars are pursuing their doctoral program. Women scientist fellowships have been received by 5 candidates, and then more than 110 students have qualified NET, JRF, SET, etc. The placement ratio of the department is par excellent. And the research project areas include stream and river ecology, groundwater quality, remote sensing and GIS, biofilms, EI, aerosols, microplastics, and ecological monitoring. Then consultancy projects include EIA, EMP in hydropower and town area development. The Department of Environmental Science has the unique distinction of publishing the Journal of Himalayan Ecology and Sustainable Development, which as on date is the only journal of the University of Kashmir which figures in the UGC care list. 3 major research projects have been completed till date and 9 are ongoing. And 10 students are working as fellows in these 9 research projects, sponsored projects. Having said this, today's program, a blend of the 2 different streams, that is on one side the Department of Environmental Sciences, University of Kashmir, and on the other side the Indian Society for Parasitology. Because health is our main concern, and then water on one side and parasite on other side, they are the 2 entities, they are the two factors which influence the health of the humans. So as is the modern trend that we have to have integrated research, we have to have integrated studies, we conceived the idea to have a collaboration and have a collaborative program with the parasitologists of the country and then the environmentalists and the people who work in various sectors regarding water and environment. So that is why we have this theme, primarily focusing on health, and on 2 sides of it, we have water and the parasites, to balance and to have the ideas across the intelligentsia to come to some solid conclusions. Since we are in the inaugural session of this 3-day international webinar, and I would be somehow have been tasked with welcoming the panelists, the speakers, and obviously the people are the dignitaries in today's welcome address. I am pleased to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Talat Ahmed, who is the chief patron of this program and president of this inaugural function, whose unparalleled leadership, support, and patronage has taken the university to new heights. Professor Sukhbir Kaur, a renowned parasitologist, was president of Indian Society for Parasitology and patron of this event and chief guest at the occasion, has always been a source of inspiration in academic and research pursuits. Ma'am, your enthusiasm to organize varied events for providing platform to youngsters is deeply appreciated. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. A hearty welcome to Professor Shakil A. Romshu, Dean Research, University of Kashmir, who has proved that dedicated research is the only way to earn name and fame for himself and for the institution. Proud of you, sir. Warm welcome to Professor Shamim Ahmad Shah Sahab, Dean School of Earth and Animal Sciences, for his concern about the welfare of the school and seeing to it that we deliver at the grassroots level. Sir, you are always available for any departmental activity. Deeply indebted to you, sir. Dr. J.K. Saxena, Secretary ISP, was supposed to join this inaugural function, but due to some exigency, he may be joining slightly late. Words fail me to welcome our renowned 9 international speakers. Professor Zhang Fan from China, Professor Basant Maheshwari from Australia, Dr. Amit Kumar from China, Professor Marco Cantonati from Italy, Dr. Binay Raj Shawakoti from Japan, Dr. Samindra Sherchan from USA, Dr. Larry Stevens from USA, Dr. Sara Naureen from Bangladesh, and Professor Mohideen Munawar from Canada. We have 5 national speakers which are of international repute, which include Professor Sandeep K. Malhotra from Allahabad, Professor Umi Shamim from Visakhapatnam, Professor Kuldeep K. Sharma from Jammu, Professor C.J. Hiware from Aurangabad, and Dr. Shelja Singh from JNU. Due to passage of time, it is not possible for me to spell out the contribution of these learned speakers, but definitely all the participants shall cherish their vast experience during the lectures and interactions. We place on record our sincere thanks and gratitude for all speakers for sparing their valuable time in spite of their busy schedule to be a part of this international webinar. No event is possible without the participants, and we are happy to announce that we have about 510 participants, registered participants, in addition to the panelists and the guests and the speakers. And these participants are from more than 52 academic and research institutions across the world. It is not possible to name them all, but we have a separate list and we'll be hosting them separately on the website for the information of all. We extend hearty welcome to all and assure them that this event definitely shall benefit them in opening new area vistas in research. We wholeheartedly welcome our advisory committee team, which in addition to the 5 members in the inaugural panel include Professor A.R. Yusuf, Professor Neelma Gupta, Professor Amjad Chisti, Professor Kamal Jaiswal, Professor Azhar Naid Kamili, Professor Irshadi Nauchu, Professor A.K. Pandit, Professor B.A. Ganai, Professor G.A. Bhatt, Dr. Abdul Mahbub Khan, Professor Shabir A. Bhatt, Professor Reis A. Qadri, Professor Shaukat Shah, and Dr. Nisara Madni. Teams of EMMRC University of Kashmir, PRO University of Kashmir, print and electronic media are welcome to the event with the request to take the message arising out of the webinar to masses for public awareness. I shall be failing in my duties if I don't mention round-the-clock selfless efforts put in by the organizing committee members, including Dr. Samiullah, Dr. Arshad, Dr. Muslim, Dr. Asma, Dr. Moiza, Dr. Irshad, Dr. Shams, Dr. Shazia, Mr. Hashim, and the supporting staff of the Department of Environmental Sciences. I am fortunate to have a sincere, dedicated, and hardworking team at my back. नहीं है नाउमीद इकबाल अपनी किश्त वीरां से, नहीं है नाउमीद इकबाल अपनी किश्त वीरां से, जरा नाम हो तो ये मिट्टी बहुत जरखेज है साकी. Again, hearty welcome to one and all, and wish fruitful deliberations out of the webinar. Walaikum assalam and have a nice day.
Thank you, Professor Fayyaz Sahab, for delivering the welcome address. Now it's a turn to invite our worthy dean, Professor Shamim Ahmed Shah, for his opening remarks. Professor Shamim Ahmed Shah, please.
Hello, am I audible, Dr. Samiullah? Hello, am I audible, Dr. Samiullah?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
it's audible.
Okay, okay. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah. A very good morning to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Professor Talat Ahmed, Professor Sukhbir Kaur, President, Indian Society of Parasitology, Professor Shakil Ahmed Ramshu, Dean Research, University of Kashmir, Professor Fayaz Ahmed Bhatt, Head Department of Environmental Sciences, Dr. Samiullah Bhatt, Coordinator, Dr. Rishad Arshad Jahangir, faculty in the department, and the faculty members. I can see Professor Kuldeep Sharma ji there, Professor Sara Noreen there. Hearty welcome and a very good morning to all of you. At the very outset, it's my privilege and honor to welcome you on behalf of the School of Earth and Environmental Sciences to this 3-day webinar on water health and parasites. Indeed, I start with complimenting the Department of Environmental Sciences for taking a lead in celebrating these events, especially the World Water Day, or be it the World Environment Day and other days, in order to raise the awareness among the different issues which is confronting the world. Now, the World Water Day is being celebrated on the 22nd of March every year. And the core focus of the observance is to support the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goal 6, wherein we are supposed to have water and sanitation for all by 2030. And if we go by the theme of the World Water Day 2021, that's valuing water, we will ensure it that the value of water is about much more than its price. Water has enormous complex value for our household, food, culture, health, education, economies, and the integrity of our natural environment. If we overlook any of these values, we risk mismanaging this finite, irreplaceable resource. You'll see Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is to ensure water and sanitation for all. Without a comprehensive understanding of water's true multidimensional value, we will be unable to safeguard this critical resource for the benefit of everyone. On the day itself, the United Nations World Water Development Report is also released, focusing on the same topic as the campaign and the recommending policy directions to decision makers. Indeed, it's been often said that the World War III will be fought on water. I think that's already going around, whether it's at a global level, whether it's a national level. And then the crises which are emerging out of the not conserving this precious resource, the facts which are coming up in terms of the global facts pertaining to water by its overuse or misuse, we can say. I'll not be talking about the global facts as such. I hope that for the 3 days, and I could see the schedule there. There are a number of panelists and the speakers who will be dealing with this at detail in terms of how we should actually address these issues by way of conservation and other aspects as such. But if you'll see at what in the Indian context we are actually seeing it, India is facing a fresh water crisis, and India has just 4% of the world fresh water, but it has around 16% of the global population. So we could actually see the situation which is emerging there in terms of the water deficit and water crisis that's emerging. And then if you see other figures, whether it's 21% of the country is diseases or water related, In comparison to any other world country, even in some of the African countries, we are actually behind in terms of having the addressing these concerns related to diseases out of the water. And if you'll see all across the figures, which are very astonishing figures in terms of that, how far we are able to provide the safe drinking water to the population. And across India as a whole, it's estimated that women spend around 150 million work hours days every year fetching and carrying water, which is equivalent to around the national loss of around, you can say, 10 billion Indian rupees or 160 million US dollars. So this is a very enormous amount which actually we are wasting, and we actually need to address to these issues. On all accounts of the water as such, we actually need to take care that we have to address the conservation policy as well as the exploitation of this pure resources. Indeed, this particular webinar, which is, as I said, on the eve of the World Water Day, but beyond that, I was happy to see that the water health and parasites are being taken care on this 3-day webinar as such together. And they have a very integrated role in terms of looking off to each other as such. And the schedule, as which was going through, is very packed in terms of assessing how the water health and the parasites actually are integrated in terms of looking after different aspects. I hope that in the coming deliberations, which will be very fruitful, and I was really overwhelmed by the participation of the huge number of participants. I could see right now around 200 participants are online right now. I again congratulate and compliment the Department of Environmental Sciences for organizing this webinar and roping in all the international panelists and the names who actually matter in the particular areas by way of their specialization. It's indeed a commendable effort. And I again convey my compliments to the head department of environmental sciences as well as his team for organizing such an event at this particular critical juncture. I'll not be taking much of your time as I'm supposed to. There's a huge kind of a schedule. Right? I once again thank the department for organizing this and giving me the opportunity to speak on this particular topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shamim Ahmad Shah Sahab, for your remarks, opening remarks. Now there is a little bit change in this of the sequence of the speakers are concerned, because they have not been able to make it. Right now, the Dr. J.K. Saxena will be actually joining a little bit late, perhaps in the inaugural session, if he could make it, because there was some exigency on his part. And Professor Shakil Saab will be in a position to actually deliver his remarks after some time. But right now, I'll be actually inviting and requesting the Professor Sukhbir Kaur as a chief, which is actually chief guest of this international webinar, and she is also the president of the Indian Society for Parasitology, to deliver her the address in this webinar. Please, Professor Sukhbir Kaur.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Professor Talat Ahmed, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir. Professor Shakil Ahmed Shromshu, Dean Research. Professor Fayaz Ahmed, Director of the webinar and Head Department of Environmental Science. Dr. J.K. Saxena, Secretary, Indian Society for Parasitology. All other deans, directors, coordinators, and organizing secretary of this webinar, faculty members, distinguished speakers from India and abroad, a very good morning to one and all. It is my proud privilege as the president of the Indian Society for Parasitology to extend a warm welcome to all our honorable guests, distinguished scientists, and young delegates. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, especially Professor Fayaz Ahmed, who very kindly acceded to a request to organize this academic event in collaboration with the society. The Indian Society for Parasitology, which was established in 1973, is continuously striving hard to bring all the parasitologists under one roof to disseminate the information and share their knowledge at various levels to a wider section of our society. For achieving this goal, the society organizes a national conference every year in which we have invited talks, we have orations, we have competitions for oral and poster presentations, young scientist awards, exhibitions, etc. But however, due to COVID-19 pandemic, it could not be held during 2020, though it was planned to be organized in Pondicherry. To fill the gap, this webinar has been organized by the University of Kashmir, though we are planning to have an annual conference very soon. I am thankful to Dr. Fayaz Ahmed, who has arranged an international event with participants from 6 to 7 countries who are experts in their field, and I'm sure that the participants are going to gain a plethora of knowledge from them. This year, the theme of the webinar is Water, Health and Parasites. The event was planned today, that is 22nd March, to celebrate the World Water Day, and the theme of this year is Valuing Water. In addition, the focus of the webinar will be on the role of water in transmission of parasitic diseases and how it affects the health of the people and population at large. We all know that water is important lifeguard, but it can also become a life-taking lethal fluid when it is polluted by chemicals, microbes, and pathogens. Water-related parasitic diseases are directly dependent on water bodies for their spread or as a habitat for indispensable intermediate or final hosts. Transmission of these diseases occurs through drinking contaminated water, particularly from human excreta. These include most of the enteric and diarrheal diseases caused by parasites worldwide. Bathing, swimming, recreational activities that have water contact, agriculture, and aquaculture are the other ways of contamination. Waterborne diseases pose a major public health problem to the developing countries where the disease can spread to a wider section of the society within a very short period of time, which badly affects the economy. They form one of the most common public health and economic problems in low and middle income countries and are always recognized as a major threat to sustainable human development. More than 5 million people die due to unsafe drinking water, lack of sanitation, and insufficient water for hygiene. According to WHO, at any given time, almost half of the people in developing countries suffer from water related diseases. There are so many challenges that have to be overcome. According to them, 58% of burden in low and middle income countries is attributable to unsafe water supply, inadequate sanitation, and lack of hygiene. One of the major causes of water contamination is human hygiene and poor sanitation. However, in the past 3 decades, attention has been given to the contamination of drinking water by pathogenic parasites, which are the cause of many diseases in humans. Over 30 million cases of water related diseases could be avoided globally each year through water and sanitation interventions. Investing in water supply and sanitation has produced benefits which are far greater than those directly related to the cost of treatment for water related diseases. Awareness and concern for public health are rapidly increasing. A reliable supply of clean drinking water in adequate amounts is now widely demanded as a basic service, albeit still not available to millions of inhabitants. Despite this, substantial efforts are to be made in this direction to provide safe drinking water and sanitation in both urban and rural populations. It is the need of the hour to provide safe drinking water to all. It is surprising to note that only 19% of the world population washes hands with soap and water after contact with the excreta. 26% people drink water that is occasionally contaminated with fecal bacteria. I may add here that though the whole world is suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic, the positive aspect is that people have learned hand hygiene habits and the environmental pollution also decreased tremendously during this period. During the last year, scientists have been racing to develop drugs, diagnostic kits, vaccines, and protective kits for COVID 19. To facilitate this, most governments have redirected funds meant for management of other infectious diseases towards anti COVID 19 efforts. The suspension of several research projects around the world might have resulted in several deadlines being met, resulting in probable loss of research funding. So, the COVID 19 pandemic has turned the clock back by years in the fight against other diseases. The research trials and other efforts to ease the public health burden has been interrupted during the last 1 year. It has been warned that if COVID 19 halts the distribution of long lasting insecticide nets, cases of malaria might increase by 206 million and malaria deaths by 379,000 in sub Saharan Africa. Scientists also predicted that deaths related to HIV could increase by 10%, tuberculosis by 20%, and malaria by 36% over the next 5 years. For the last 1 year, the focus is only on COVID-19 pandemic, but it is very essential that scientists, governments, and general population should realize the importance of other diseases, especially the parasitic diseases. Malaria, schistosomiasis, filariasis, hookworm infections, and other helminthic and protozoan parasitic diseases, they take a tremendous toll on the population in developing countries. Yet, because most of these diseases are no longer endemic to developed countries, their research and intervention is not funded at levels that are proportional to their global morbidity and mortality. The scientific and public health communities must vigorously fight COVID 19, but it is also essential that measures are also taken to combat other diseases, especially the neglected tropical diseases. In the end, I invite the delegates who are working in the field of parasitology to become members of the society by logging on to the website of the ISP. They can log on and the online payment system is there, and if they are eligible, they will be made life members of the society. The advantage is that we have a journal of the society, which is called Journal of Parasitic Diseases, which is published by Springer, and all the life members, they can have free access to the journal after we provide them the codes, and through the codes they can get free access to the journals. Otherwise it is a paid journal. So I welcome you all to join the family of parasitologists and join the hand for the elimination of these deadly diseases. I once again thank all the organizers for arranging this academic feast, and I wish you all the very best for the success of the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Sukhbir Kaur, ISP President, for your thoughtful observations, especially with facts and figures on the water, health, hygiene, and parasites. Now, I would like to request Professor Shakil Ahmed Ramshu, Dean Research, University of Kashmir, for his remarks. Please, Professor Shakil Ahmed.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Professor Talat Ahmed, Professor Sukhbir Kaur, President, Indian Society of Parasitology, Dr. J.K. Saxena, if he has already joined, Secretary, Indian Society of Parasitology, Professor Shamim Ahmad Shah, Dean, Faculty of Earth and Environmental Sciences, Professor Fayaz Ahmed, Head, Department of Environmental Sciences, distinguished speakers from various parts of the world, panelists, my fellow colleagues from different departments of the University of Kashmir, research scholars and students, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. At the very outset, I congratulate the Department of Environmental Sciences for having organized an international workshop, 3-day workshop on a theme which is not only globally of very tremendous societal and scientific importance, but if we look at national and local, regional level also, the theme is, of tremendous importance, economic, social, or environmental, or scientific. So I was looking at the, this program for the next 2 days, 3 days, and I saw that almost all the aspects of the water-related issue are being dealt with. Quality, quantity, health issues, every aspect of most of the aspects of the water are being, dealt with in these 3 days by different renowned speakers, which have been, selected or who have who will be, delivering the talks during the next 3 days. And as we know, the World Water Day, even when I see around me today, there are almost 3-4 functions that are being organized by different stakeholders, by the government, by the civil society, by the NGOs, by the University of Kashmir on World Water Day. And it is, almost now 30 years or 28 years since the United Nations decided that one of the 365 days in a year, we will have to dedicate creating awareness about different aspects of the water. And we have been doing that. I think, so as, the predecessors were saying that, this year's theme is the value of water. So there is really, when we talk about the water, it is very difficult to put costing on the water. So because of the services that are provided by the water and the, products that are generated by the water. So it is really, a valuable, resource. And so this is the day when we need to emphasize on actions by different stakeholders. So that, the objective should be to have a robust and sustainable water policies, and which are informed by knowledge and science. As Professor Sukhbir was also talking about, COVID has given us a lot of pain for the entire year. It is chasing us and scaring us for the entire year. But at the same time, COVID has some positives, in the sense that one is that people are getting conscious about washing their the personal hygiene, the hand hygiene has improved to a significant extent, and we know how many diseases and how many ailments are there because of the bad hand hygiene. Similarly, we have learned very well how to communicate, so we are today here, people are from many parts of the world sitting in their own offices, homes, at workplaces, and we are able to exchange our ideas and communicate with each other. I think the COVID, made us to learn how to communicate better also. Now, if you look at the theme, from the Indian perspective or from the Jammu and Kashmir perspective, if you see, the waters emanating from the Indian Himalayas, or the Hindu Kush Himalayas, basically are a source of, drinking water for domestic purpose, industrial and other uses of the water. Just 20% of the world population is dependent on waters that emanate from the Hindu Kush Himalayas, or the Indian Himalayas forms a very significant part of the Hindu Kush Himalayas. And Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, particularly in the Indian Himalayas, is significantly contributing to the water supplies in the South Asia region. So we have about 12,000 glaciers in the Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. And we know how the water from here is shared and used by the countries in the neighborhood. So water, in my understanding And many of the participants will agree that water is the most important resource for this region. And we have been seeing how water, basically both quality as well as quantity is getting impacted by various, factors, various drivers. And if you look at the, observations for the last, half a century, 1960, we have data particularly in this region. So you will see there's a significant deterioration of water quality as well as quantity. And there are various, drivers for that. The human population has significantly increased. The industrialization has taken place, particularly in the downstream part of the basin. The climate change is a very significant driver that has, that is responsible for the enhanced melting of the glaciers in the region. So all these, things, I think, or even if we look at the water quality, in and around our, places here, so it has significantly deteriorated over a period of time. So it is very important, this occasion, again, we reiterate that this is an occasion to, to create awareness among different stakeholders in the academia, the government, the policymakers, the civil society, because everybody has a role as an individual. I think we need to rise to the occasion. But before I conclude, I will just, give you an idea about the, because being the Dean Research at the University of Kashmir, I feel it, my obligation or a duty to tell what do we research as far as water is concerned. So water is basically one of the thrust areas of research at the University of Kashmir. There are almost 5-6 departments. We have about 50 departments and research centers, 55 departments and research centers at the University of Kashmir. But I tell you, there are about 6-7 departments in the University of Kashmir where water is a thrust area of research. Different aspects of the water are being researched in the, in different departments. Whether it is the water, impacts of climate change on water, glaciers, whether it is the water quality, whether it is the lake wetland ecology or the lake hydrology, I think, or whether it is the social aspects of the water. You will see some of our, faculty in the university are researching different aspects of the water. We have, as of today, we have, as Dean Research, I operationalize almost 255 research projects. Annually, we get almost, and many of these projects are basically related to generating knowledge and information on various aspects of water. I think so water is, even at the Department of Environment Science, I know most of the faculty members, many of the faculty members are somehow researching various aspects of the water quality, water quantity, health and water, and climate and water, many other things. So I think, this is very important for us because I said the water is the most important resource for this region, and the importance of the water, which will be emphasized by the different speakers during the next 3 years. The participants will realize that it is really one of the very important resources that we need to protect, that we need to manage in a way that is sustainable. I think with these words, I wish a very productive proceedings and interaction of the participants with the speakers, and wish the organizers a very successful and productive workshop. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Shakil Ahmed, for these remarks, especially emphasizing on this policy science merger, as well as the quality or the type of research going on related to water in the University of Kashmir. Before I would actually go to Vice Chancellor for requesting, I would like to actually request to Professor Larry Stevens from Arizona in this USA, if he is able to hear me, to have a very quick comments on the webinar. Can you actually hear me, Professor Larry Stevens, please?
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Bhatt. Can
Yes,
you hear
please.
me all right?
Yes,
Very
yes,
good.
we can hear you. Yes, please have quick comments and observations on the webinar, please.
I'm sorry I do not have a camera on this computer, but it's a great honor to be able to speak to you when I give my talk on springs to your very august colleagues there. I will talk about the role of springs in their natural function and their human uses and the impacts that humans have upon them. And we see this as an important conservation topic because springs, places where groundwater comes out, reaches the surface, are very, they're very tiny ecosystems, but they play a huge role in economics, in the ecology of regions. Their environmental subsidies are transferred from the spring to the surrounding landscape, and from the surrounding landscape, the springs contribute very much. So, so I look forward to kind of introducing the audience to this issue of springs and their conservation. Conserving small points in the landscape that are incredibly important to both people and to nature. So I look forward to speaking with you all in another day. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Larry. Now, I would like to request and invite Professor Talat Ahmed, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Srinagar, for his presentation address for the webinar. Please, Professor Talat Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Samiullah Saab, Professor Fan Zak, Professor Larry Stebbins, Professor Sukhbir Kaur, Professor Shakil Ramshu, Dr. Saxena, Professor Shamib, Professor Fayaz, my other colleagues, Professor Kuldeep Sharma, Professor Umme Shamim, Sara Noreen, Samiullah, and all the resource persons who are attending, and the participants. Good morning and Assalamu alaikum to all of you. As Professor Shakil Ramshu and many other colleagues spoke about this water, the problem of water, and to celebrate the World's Water Day today, it has a history, and people have been trying to have access to potable water and also water for other uses, including economic activities and industry and everything. So this is a problem, and world over, we know that still, compared to the Himalayan region and in particular Kashmir, we don't have so much problem as we have in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So it is a scarce commodity, although when we were children, it used to be free and anywhere you can get. But now, at least in many parts of the country, not because of not availability of good water, but because now the things have become very commercial because people are very health conscious. So they buy mineral water. I do not know how much good they are also in different parts of the world. We were always told in great sayings is something called Abe Rawan, which is the water which is flowing is Khush Abast, means the water that flows is always clean. Okay, that was the concept. But now I think that concept doesn't really work because we put all the things in the Abe Rawan, means the river or anything that is flowing is full of now problematic things. So it doesn't become safe to use our river water or lakes. Even lakes, for example, we have a very famous Dal Lake for those people who are not from this country, which had lots of outlets. So the lake used to be, the water in the lake used to be cycling, and you were always having, yesterday we had a tree plantation day, and some of the people who are now quite senior, they used to say that we used to throw keys in the Dal Lake, and then somebody who could dive could get that out. That means you could see the key. So it was so clean. Now you don't like to even put your hand in the Dal Lake, for example. So these are some of the issues. And there is a big thrust now in the country to have water conservation. Okay, whatever water, we have monsoon where lots of water comes, but most of it goes away, to the Bay of Bengal or the Arabian Sea, and we cannot use all those good water which we could preserve. So we should have a very strong policy of water conservation. I have seen in many parts of Australia where also they have desertic conditions. So all house top they have some sort of arrangement that any time the water comes, that is stored, okay, and then they use it. So we have to have very good policy to implement that. Even there should be support from the government that anybody who makes house, like what we have lots of policy now to have alternative energy source. For example, we have solar panels which is given by the government for very reasonable rates. So same thing the government should also do for making people or encouraging people to have this water conservation. Whatever rain comes should not just go away. Okay, so that is the, and then we should have, obviously, in the Himalayan region, although there are difficulties also to have even micro dams, but that is the only way to even recharge many parts of the aquifers through this sort of arrangement. So there has to be very good research in all these directions, although there are big, very famous bodies who are doing research, including Kashmir University, as Professor Ramshu was telling. But I feel that there are lots of scope, even in the Himalayas, like what Professor Larry Stevens, I will definitely try to listen to his talk, that there are lots of springs in the Himalayas which have dried up. Why they have dried up is because they have not been recharged, the aquifers from where it is coming, because of plastic. The plastic goes and chokes all those conduits through which you can recharge these aquifers, and then you have these beautiful springs. Fortunately, in Kashmir, still we have lots of springs around, but many other parts of the Himalayas, they are not. There were lots of springs which are not. So one has to also work, because those are the springs. If they get rejuvenated, you don't have to buy mineral water, at least in the Himalayan region. Okay, so that needs to be worked. I'm basically a geologist, so I keep moving, and I have moved enough in different parts of the Himalayas. And except for few places, we don't see much of springs really active now, although they were there. Similarly, there are lots of problem of deforestation, which again allows the sediments or the soil erosion from the higher reaches and going to the water bodies. That includes lake and rivers, which gets shallow. And as they get shallow in the normal, even in the normal condition of monsoon or rain, there are always scare of flooding, particularly like in Kashmir, as we see. So all these things need to be understood. What best we should do, because even if we do desilting in one area, it is going to create problem in another area. So we should have very good understanding of the whole Earth system science, I'll say. That includes the ecology, that includes even the parasitology. That is one of the important aspects of this seminar. So I was very happy to see a galaxy of people have been invited. and they're going to give talks which will be very useful for us, and particularly the youngsters who are going to be the leaders of future. So I wish all the best for this 3 days seminar on the water. It's how best we can use, how best we can conserve, and what should be the policy also, although there are lots of policy that the United Nations and the individual governments of the countries, they do. But in our own country, we know that we have a very big population. We have about 16% of the total population of the globe in India, and we have hardly about 4% potable water which can be used. So that means we have to work in a very special way to have more water available for the people. So we can breathe, but we can breathe only when there is good air and fresh air. Similarly, if nothing, because we know that more than 80% of the body of ours or any animal is water. Maybe Dr. Sukhbir will know much better than me. And if the water is not clean, it is having parasites and it is having pollutants, it's going also to go to your body and again make health issues. So all these things are very important. So I'm very sure that this 3 days deliberation and the experts who are going to talk will be very, very useful. And I wish all the best. And I congratulate our Department of Environmental Sciences, the head of the department, Fayaz, and other colleagues for doing this very important 3 days seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Talat Ahmed, for your remarks, especially on emphasizing to work on the conservation of the water resources as well as working on the springs and earth system as a whole. Now, before we actually close this inaugural session, I would like to extend my thanks to the Professor Talat Ahmed, who because of his busy schedule has agreed to be the part of this session. And also apart from that, Professor Shakil Ahmed and Professor Shamim Ahmed, the speakers from within the country and outside country, students, resources who have been a part of this, making this effort for happening to this to be a very success of this international webinar. A big thank you to all of you. And we will have actually the talk from the Professor Zhang Fan at 11 o'clock. With these words, I will close this inaugural session with again, thank you to all of you. The participants are requested to be actually be in login before we will actually start our lecture at 11 o'clock from our expert person from the China, that's Professor Zhang Fan. Our moderator for this session will be Dr. Muhammad Muslim. He is requested to take the charge of this proceedings. Please, Dr. Muhammad Muslim.